Hello there, everyone, and welcome back to the GSL-English Podcast. My name is Gideon, and this is a podcast for all learners of English to practice and improve in a relaxed and natural way. And in this episode, we are going to focus on some good news. So we're going to learn and improve our English by reading some good news together. So not only will you come away from this episode having improved your English and learnt something new, hopefully, you'll come away just feeling happier because it's a lovely story about some lifelong friends here in England. And I've wanted to look at a news article or study a news article together for quite a while on the podcast. And in fact, many of you have sent me messages and left comments and email and sent me an email saying, please go through a news article, go through something. And I'll be completely honest with you, I have tried it. I've tried preparing podcast on news articles, but here's my issue with it. A lot of news, or the news that we read, a lot of things going on in the world, it's bad, isn't it? It's fairly depressing. And we read that, we're surrounded by it. And I didn't like the idea of coming away from this podcast after reading perhaps some negative or bad news. I don't know. I just didn't want that to be something that we did on this podcast. Even though that might be helpful, I do know that many of you watch these podcasts or listen to this podcast because you come away feeling more positive and enthused for life. And I wanted to keep that theme going. So I typed into Google. I said, Google, give me some good news. I want some good news. And the BBC delivered with this lovely article that we're going to look at in the moment. So we are reading and studying the news together. But here we'll simply focus on good news. So you can come away not only having improved and practiced your English, but feeling a bit better than when we started. Okay? So that's the idea. And I've already been told that my battery is low on the camera/phone. So let's see how that goes. Now, speaking of technology, for those of you watching on YouTube, you will notice that I am holding my microphone today. Now, every now and then I hold the microphone, don't I? I've done it in the past just to give it a try. But today, this is not a choice. I am being forced to hold the microphone. Now, when I say being forced, please let me just clarify. There's not somebody behind the camera going, Gideon, you must hold that microphone or else. No, that's not what I mean. When I say I'm being forced, I am being forced by a situation. And I blame the internet. I blame my Wi-Fi because in this little cabin where I'm in, where I record these podcasts and I work, where I usually have my desk, and you have the backdrop that you know from the podcasts, it is a complete dead spot for Wi-Fi. Okay, so in this corner, it's dead. I get no signal at all. So last week, I moved my desk about 6 feet to the left in front of the window, and the Wi-Fi is perfect. Really bizarre, isn't it? It's strange. For some reason, in this corner, no Wi-Fi. 6 feet that way, perfect Wi-Fi. And it was always a bit of an issue, but I didn't want to change the backdrop. But last week, I thought I'd give it a try. And I set up all my desk over there. I started recording the podcast, and it just felt weird not having this normal backdrop. I felt odd. It didn't feel like the usual podcast. So it wasn't working for me. So what I did was I got our little side table, which goes next to the sofa. Normally rest your drinks on it. And I came up with a makeshift desk. So my laptop is currently sitting on 3 books and my side table. The camera is resting on a shelf, and there wasn't any room for my microphone stand. So that is why I am holding my microphone. Listening to that story back, I realised how boring it actually was. Do you ever have those moments where you hear yourself talking, or you have like an out-of-body experience where you watch yourself talking and you think, if I was listening to you, I would be so bored? I just had one of those moments. So I apologise for that incredibly boring story of why I am holding a microphone, which went on for nearly 2.5 minutes. But there you go. It's because of a makeshift desk. So if you are new here, please bear with me. Please don't leave. I promise we will get on to some English soon. But as I said, the idea of this podcast is to present the English language to you in a real and authentic way. Okay, so just so you can be immersed in the English language and improve in a way that will prepare you for real world situations using the English language. So please don't forget to like, subscribe and follow on Spotify. And if you are a returning viewer or listener, thank you so much, as always, for tuning in to this podcast. We're growing. We're, I think, at 31,000 subscribers now. So thank you so much. It really does mean a lot to me. So let's read some good news. As I said, we're not going to focus on bad news in this podcast. We're not going to look at anything negative. And I just loved this story. And perhaps you will relate to it on a few different levels. So we're going to read through it. We'll just take it bit by bit, go through some of the vocabulary and what it all means. Now's your chance. Grab a cup of tea, grab a cup of coffee, get some food, get comfortable, get relaxed, and just unwind whilst absorbing yourself in the English language. So the article that we are going to read together is from the BBC, and it is entitled, "We've Met Up for a Pint Every Month for 64 years." I wish I'd done the math beforehand. 64 times 12. Not going to do it. It's over. So 64 times 12. No, I'm not going to do any maths. It's not my problem, not my domain, and I am guaranteed to get it wrong. So if any of you can work out how many times have they met up at the pub, let me know in the comments. Okay, if you can work out how many times have these guys met up at the pub, let me know in the comments. So we've met up for a pint every month for 64 years. And if you're watching on YouTube, you can see the picture there of the lads or the guys as we're going to go through, and you'll see some more about them. So the group first met at Prince Henry School in Evesham in 1953 and have been meeting every month since 1960. Now, just as a note, this was written on the 7th of November 2024. So this podcast comes out, actually, it will come out 30 days, has September, April, June and November. So this podcast will come out on the 1st of December, which is a Sunday. And if you're wondering what little rhyme I just did there, it's so I can remember how many days there are in each month. Okay, here you go. 30 days has September, April, June and November. All the rest have 31 except for February. And I think there's an end part to that rhyme that makes it all linked together, because it kind of loses the flow a little bit, doesn't it? But if you want to work out how many days there are in a month, that little rhyme helps. 30 days has September, April, June and November. All the rest have 31 except for February. So yeah, it really does lose the rhythm, but it helps you. So there you go. So this podcast will come out on the 1st of December. So this was only written last month. Let's get into it. Every month is an opportunity for Kim Bright, David Bay, Brian Wells, John Collins and Michael Stevens to meet up for a pint at the Old Swan Inn in Evesham. So every month, these friends meet up for a pint at the Old Swan Inn. Old Swan Inn is the name of the pub where they meet in Evesham. It is a nice part of England. I think it's in Worcestershire. Really lovely part of England. But they meet up for a pint. And they've been doing it for the last 64 years. Now, what do we mean when we say to meet up for a pint? Basically, let's get together. Let's meet up at a pub, have a drink, and have a chat. You might drink a pint. Maybe not all of them drink alcohol, but it doesn't necessarily just mean the fact of meeting up, getting together and drinking a pint. It's the social element. It's the idea of catching up, of getting together. That is what that means. Sometimes with my friends, I'll message and say, do you want to grab a pint after work on Friday? Or, do you want to meet up for a pint sometime? Do you want to get together and just have a chat whilst partaking in a pint? It is an event in the calendar they have all looked forward to for the past 64 years, with some travelling from as far as South Africa to make the monthly Lads Night. Now, if that isn't commitment to an evening, I don't know what is. So, if we look forward to something, we are waiting for it with anticipation. We're excited about it. If we're looking forward to an event, we're happy about it. We're excited. So they've looked forward to this event for the past 64 years, with some travelling from as far as South Africa to make the monthly Lads Night. That term lads is just an informal British English term basically for a group of men. So I have a group chat, which I think is called Lads. It's just me and my mates. We just, arrange things on there or have a little chat. So you've got these group of guys meet monthly for a Lads Night. The lads first met at Prince Henry School in Evesham in 1953. And when they left in 1960, they got together for a farewell pint, but did not want to say goodbye. So these group of men, first met at school in Evesham in 1953. And in 1960, they went for a farewell pint, meaning a pint to say goodbye. A pint to say, all the best with your life, lads. We finished school. We'll see you soon. But they just had that overwhelming feeling that they didn't want to say goodbye in 1960. They were close. They were mates. They were lads, almost to the point of brothers. And they just thought, no, we don't want to say goodbye. This is not farewell. So instead, they arranged to have a regular pub gathering on the first Tuesday of every month. I absolutely love this. I think this is absolutely fantastic. So rather than saying goodbye, they said, no, come on, let's keep this going. Let's meet for a pint. Let's get together regularly the first Tuesday of every month. The group, all now aged in their 80s, said they felt like a band of brothers. Basically, when you say a band of brothers, a group of men that are extremely close and, just love each other as mates, really close, almost like brothers, as family. There's that series, isn't there? I can't remember when it came out, called Band of Brothers, an incredible war series. But it's the idea of those men just being so close, willing to die for each other. They're a band of brothers. So these guys, of course, they're more than lads. They're more than just mates. They are a band of brothers now in their 80s. And they've met up every first Tuesday since 1960. I think that is absolutely incredible. We talk about all sorts of stuff. Reminiscence. I never thought for 1 minute we'd still be here doing it all these years later, Mr. Stevens said. Do you imagine they get together and just talk about loads of stuff, and it uses that word reminiscence. To reminisce is to think about the past. Perhaps they talk about different stories, talk about things they went through, talk about life now, life in the past, what they expect from the future. But that's the idea of reminiscence, is just reminiscing about the past. Those good memories they had as friends, going to the same school. And I never thought for 1 minute, meaning that he never imagined or never thought that it would go on for this long. You wouldn't, would you? If you started that, you wouldn't assume that you would still be doing it into your 80s, but they are. And here's the reason why. I felt that perhaps we would be letting the others down if we didn't turn up. So there's that element, I don't want to let the lads down. I don't want to, I don't want to be that one that doesn't turn up, because if I don't turn up once, then what if another time they don't turn up, and then that's it. Life gets in the way. And isn't that true? When I was reading this, preparing it, I thought, what, sometimes the biggest reason we don't do this kind of thing is just because life gets in the way. But these group of men, they thought, no, we're not going to let life get in the way. We are going to meet as lads, as a band of brothers, every first Tuesday of the month. The little caption on this picture says, they first met at school in Evesham in 1953 and are still putting the world to rights. To put the world to rights means to basically, within your conversation or within this group of guys, they're fixing the world, fixing all the problems, fixing everything that's going wrong in the world. You talk about society, government, politics, the weather, global warming, whatever it is. You talk about everything. And you talk about your solutions of how you're going to fix it. And I think the beautiful thing is, when they first started in 1960, they probably put the world to rights with things that really mattered to them. Now in their 80s, I wonder if the conversations of putting the world to rights are very different. What is the subject matter of that conversation? And you often do it, don't you? When you get together with your really close friends, you do put the world to rights. You fix it. You have those conversations of what we would do, how we would solve all of the problems. You make everything right. And then that's what they do. Mr. Day described himself as a newcomer to the group, only joining the monthly drinks 22 years ago after living in London before retiring in Evesham. To retire means to kind of end your working life, and then you no longer work, but you live off your retirement that you paid into, or the government pays you. So you get to the age where you stop working and you get money from the government and the pensions that you have paid into. But Mr. Day, I'm the new boy here. I only started 22 years ago. He said as soon as he joined, familiar faces and nostalgia took him back to his boyhood days. Familiar faces are faces that we recognise. And nostalgia, it seems to be a big theme on this podcast at the moment. I feel very nostalgic at the moment. I don't know what it is, but nostalgia is going back to the past and just thinking about it. And there's so many things that make us feel nostalgic. A smell, a sound, a piece of music, a face. Recently I saw one of my old teachers from school, and it instantly just threw me back to 20 years ago in the past. Absolutely incredible. But this nostalgia, these familiar faces, take him back to his boyhood days. Make him feel like a kid again, and maybe that's why they keep on doing it. When I returned after a long gap of 40 years, it was just like we've been drinking the night before, he said. So he had a gap of 40 years away from the group. And when he went back after that gap of 40 years, just like I've been drinking the night before. And to me, that is the mark of a great friendship. When you don't stay in touch all the time. You're not able to always have conversations, always communicate, but as soon as you get back together, you just pick up where you left off. That to me is the sign of a great friendship. When you just get together, have a drink, and you just pick up where you left off. It's not awkward. There's no silence. That is the great sign of a friendship. And he said after the gap of 40 years, that's what it was like. It carried on just like they'd been drinking the night before. He continued, it didn't take very long to pick up again on what everybody had been up to and feel comfortable chatting to people about it. So, instantly, even after a 40-year break, he felt part of it. Just catch up on where everyone is and where everyone's going, and then you feel comfortable. Mr. Wells travels from Cheltenham with fellow schoolmate Mr. Collins every month and said, it's just nice to see the familiar faces and chew the bit. That theme of familiar faces is coming back. Faces, I guess, that you just feel comfortable with. People that you feel relaxed with. And, when you meet up with friends that you've known for a long time, you've got all those stories together, haven't you? You've been through things together, good and bad, but they help you through it. And to chew the bit, just to chat about things, just to natter on about rubbish, about life, about stuff, about putting the world to rights. You just get together with those familiar, those comforting, those relaxing faces, and you just chat on about nothing and everything. And that's why they love it. And I get that. And he said, I'm not a very chatty person as a rule. If someone is chatty, they like to talk. They like to have conversation. He says, I'm not a very chatty person as a rule. Generally speaking, I'm not that conversational. I just enjoy listening to this lot rabbiting on. I'm not a very chatty person, but I just love listening to this lot of old lads, these 80-year-old guys just rabbit on. Rabbit on basically is to natter on, to ramble on, to keep going, just talking and talking. And that's most probably what they do. They probably have some laughs. They probably have some intense discussions. Just listening to them rabbit on. I think that's just a really nice part, actually, that he doesn't go often just to share his opinions or be the loudest one in the room. He just watches. He just goes to watch his mates, to watch his lads, to watch his band of brothers just rabbit on. Talk away, probably a lot of the time, but about absolute rubbish. But he loves it. The group said, despite technology offering various ways to communicate and stay connected, nothing beat the moments and memories created when they meet up in person. Now, I thought this was a really lovely example, or a lovely point, because it's true, isn't it? Now, technology has offered us so many ways to communicate, to stay connected. We've got WhatsApp, Zoom, FaceTime, Skype, all of these services where we can connect with people through a screen. But the reality is, nothing beats the moments and memories created when you're in person with someone. Excuse me. By nothing beats, basically saying that nothing is better than actually just being face to face. And this takes me back to COVID, a time when we were using Zoom to connect with families, to talk, and it was only through a screen. And how much at that time would we have given just to being face to face with our friends, with our family? Excuse me, got a little bit of dust go to the back of my throat. Yeah, and he says, the technology does offer these various ways to communicate, which is fantastic, but it's not the same as face-to-face communication. Taking that time just to meet up with your mates in a pub and just talk, it is really important. And we'll get onto that point in a moment. But he said this, that Mr. Wells encouraged young people to meet up more. More often than not, they're just talking individually on their phones, to their phone group chats, rather than face to face. More often than not, so meaning that this happens more than it does not happen, that you see individuals just on their phones, on a group chat, playing a game, whatever it is. But the idea of this article, he just wanted to encourage people, get together with your friends, with your lads, with the girls, with your mates, whatever it is, whoever it is, meet up with them. Have a face-to-face discussion. Talk about it. And I guess really value that time you have with your friends, because life is so busy, isn't it? Life is crazy, and it just gets more busy every year, it seems. Maybe that's just because I'm getting older and more responsibility. But, take that time just to be with your friends. Okay, it's 12 times a year. First Tuesday of every month, they meet up for a pint. And it's of real value to them. And I just really like that point. I just really like that idea, that enjoy the time we have with your friends and be present, be there, Just chat about everything. Put the world to rights. Nothing wrong with that at all. So what we're going to do now is just read the article in its entirety, just so you can hear it. And yeah, just listen out for the theme, but also the love that comes across in this good news. Every month is an opportunity for Kim Bright, David Bay, Brian Wells, John Collins and Michael Stevens to meet up for a pint at the Old Swan Inn in Evesham. It is an event in the calendar they have all looked forward to for the past 64 years, with some travelling from as far as South Africa to make the monthly Lads' Night. The lads first met at Prince Henry School in Evesham in 1953, and when they left in 1960, they got together for a farewell pint, but did not want to say goodbye. Instead, they arranged to have a regular pub gathering on the first Tuesday of every month. The group, all now aged in their 80s, said they felt like a band of brothers. We talk about all sorts of stuff. Reminiscence. I never thought for 1 minute we'd still be here doing it all these years later, Mr. Stevens said. I feel that perhaps we would be letting the others down if we didn't turn up. Mr. Day describes himself as a newcomer to the group, only joining the monthly drinks 22 years ago after living in London before retiring in Evesham. He said as soon as he joined, familiar faces and nostalgia took him back to his boyhood days. When I returned after a long gap of 40 years, it was just like we've been drinking the night before, he said. It didn't take very long to pick up again on what everybody had been up to and feel comfortable chatting to people about it. Mr. Wells travels from Cheltenham with fellow schoolmate Mr. Collins every month and said, "It's just nice to see the familiar faces and chew the bit." I'm not a very chatty person as a rule. I just enjoy listening to this lot rabbiting on. The group said despite technology offering various ways to communicate and stay connected, nothing beat the moments and memories created when they meet up in person. Mr. Wells encouraged young people to meet up more. More often than not, they're just talking individually, on their phones to their phone group chats, rather than face to face. I just love that story. I just think it's such a beautiful article, and it does get me thinking, got some good mates, got some good friends. Value the time with them. It's not all about work, is it? It's not all about being busy. It's not all about, all the big stuff in life. Enjoy the little things like meeting up at the pub for a pint with your mates, with your family, and just enjoy it. Be present. Just be present in that moment. Everything's technology based, isn't it? And the way we're going, life is just going to be more technology based as it finds incredible solutions to problems we have and things like that. But nothing beats face-to-face communication. There's no denying that at all. So I hope you enjoyed that article. Some good news. If you did enjoy that, I'll try and find some more good news articles that have a positive vibe, that we come away from feeling good, feeling upbuilt, and with a nice positive message. Enjoy the time with our friends. Reach out to them. Perhaps there's a friend that we haven't spoken to in years, but we'd love to. Send them a message. Why don't we all do that after this? Let's all send our friends that we haven't spoken to in a while just a message. Hey, how are you doing? Or even better, hey, do you want to meet up for a pint sometime soon? Thank you so much for watching, guys. Thank you so much for listening. I do appreciate it. So, as long as you guys keep liking these videos, leaving comments and watching them, I will keep on preparing these podcasts. But thank you so much. I hope you have a good week ahead. I hope it's not too hectic for you. But, English is a marathon, not a sprint. Enjoy it, embrace it, immerse yourself in it, and I will see you very soon. Have a good one, guys.